Good afternoon and welcome to today's session on Recession-Proof Business Strategies by United SMEs, sponsored by Blackbox Innosoft Technologies Private Limited. I am Prasanna, co-host of the event today. Let me introduce today's presenter, Mr. Jay Desai and Mr. Vishal Shah. Mr. Jay is an alumnus of IIT Bombay and NIMS Mumbai. He has a vast experience working with top electronics and retail brands like HP, Panasonic, LG Electronics, Reliance Retail, and Onida, to name a few. He brings in 2 decades of expertise in business development, business operations, sales, marketing, inventory management, cash flow management, team management, leadership, and team building, digital flow management, and channel management. Mr. Vishal is CEO and co-founder of Cinesoft Technologies. He is known as seasoned technology stalwart, an inventor of specific patented technologies, a writer, a serial entrepreneur, an investor, and most importantly, a go-to guy for MSMEs. This webinar is designed to give interesting insights to Indian MSMEs on how to adapt to these global developments and build a recession-proof strategy. The webinar will cover the following topics: understanding recession and its impact, handy strategies to deal with recession, development of management informative system for recession times. If you have any question while you watch this presentation, kindly ask in the question and answer tab in the bottom of your Zoom login. The panel will take up the questions at the end of the session. Alternatively, in case you want to ask any question in the end of the session, you may please raise your hand and we shall activate your microphone to ask the question. Vishal sir, can you please take it ahead from here?
Yeah, good afternoon all. We are back with another webinar in our United SMEs webinar series. And this time we have selected the topic building recession-proof business. We found this topic very appealing and relevant to current situations and circumstances. Most of the newspaper headlines talk about recession nowadays. It is because of China's corona situation or Russia's war or European Union's problems or Japan's inflation rate or even US's fiscal policy. So most of the entrepreneurs are wondering, how this kind of impact of the recession would affect them and, what should be their strategy. So we thought that let us develop some good content and, engage the experts, who can help our members of United SMEs to find out whether they can really have a scope of building recession-proof business or not. So we are going to conduct this entire session in 3 parts. One, we'll understand whether there is a recession or not. We will understand what is the impact of the recession and what are the indicators of recession to a specific business. It may be possible that certain businesses who are going through recession, certain other businesses are going to extreme profitability. We have seen that in Corona times. So recession is not for everyone. Recession is for those who are not able to change their business models, who are not able to change their operational style, so many things. So we will conduct this session. First, we'll understand the impact of recession and indicators of recession. Then we will discuss certain handy strategies to deal with recession, as well as to make sure that organization's business is immune of recessional forces. And at last, we will understand what are the MIS points or data points every entrepreneur should focus on in order to detect the recession in advance, in order to detect what kind of adoption will be required by their business, and in order to make sure that everything is fine even during the recession. So we'll discuss those data points also, which every entrepreneur should watch on. So before we, hand over the session to Jai, who is an expert consultant on this. He runs his own consulting service, White Lotus, which helps MSME owners, to deal with their business problems and, get the best out of the opportunities. So Jai is with us. Thank you, Jai, for being with us, and we hope that we are heading towards a very, very interesting session. Before we start this session, I request all of you to participate in a poll so that we can understand the participants' profile very well, and we can really adapt our next session accordingly. So please help us with your participation in this poll. And Jay, I will just narrate what is the outcome of the poll. It is not visible to everyone. And then we will start the session. We'll know the composition of our audience today. So we are able to see the poll results on the screen. 43% of the attendees are MSME owners. 14% are business strategy consultants. 14% are business development professionals. Of course, business development professionals are affected the most in the recessionary pressures. And 29% of the people are others who are not categorizing them in any of the three. But yes, it is very heartening to see, Jai, that, there is very, very relevant profile, in our all attendees. So I think let's look at this session and, head towards an interesting one. Yeah, over to you, Jai.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Vishal. And I welcome all the participants. Good afternoon to you. Thank you, United MSMEs, for having me here to share my views. And we are starting interesting discussion on the very hot topic these days, which is the recession. And there is a ongoing debate in India, that is India resilient to recession, and are we having an impact of recession, global recession or not, and so on and so forth. So if we narrow down our outlook and look at specific to our industry or the geography or the region that we cater to, and the type of customers that we are catering to, then the recession can have a very different outlook from what we read in the newspapers day in and day out these days. So is what the tech giants doing this way these days also affecting us, or should we go their way, or should we have our own way and have a plan for next 2 years and how we are going out of this? So these are the interesting things which we will be discussing during this session. So what are the indicators of a recession? How do we come to know, apart from the newspapers and the media, then they talk about, and the global giants and the giants in our country, bigger industries, they do and take certain steps and they announce, and everybody, even the layman, is coming to know that we are sailing through good or bad times. Apart from that, an owner of a business, how we come to know that we have been affected party, or it is coming to us or not. Very foremost and simple indicator is the turnover. So as we are tracking our turnovers, mostly those who are diligent enough, they are tracking every week, but at least people are tracking the turnovers on monthly basis. And the indication that our turnover numbers are giving us on month-to-month basis give us the first impression that there is something is wrong in the market, or are we going in the right direction? And so we start thinking from that. So turnover is the first indicator. Another indicator are the loss of market share. I'll take the 4 point first, that companies who are tracking their market share, there are industries which are organized. So there are agencies like AC Nielsen or GfK. These are the people who are publishing the market share of major brands across the categories, and those publications give immediate indication of a loss or gain of market share in those industries. But when it comes to MSME, our sectors, we at least have an idea of the size of market which we are catering to, the region or all India basis. And our turnover immediately tells us that whether we are gaining the share or we are losing the share. So market share impact is another indicator of the times which are changing in the market. Another impact, major impact on recession, if the turnovers are declining, then it causes the overheads to shoot up, and it becomes difficult to sustain the business with the new turnover. So increasing overheads is another impact of the recession, and it directly hits the profits. Another very bad impact is the liquidity crisis. So the payments start coming slow from the market. The clients who are the good paymasters, they will continue, but the rest of the market will start delaying the payments, and the impact which is coming on the payment and collection is another indicator that the market is not in the good shape. And this particular liquidity crisis, it actually, when we call it in a different terms, like the rising of the overheads is impacting your profitability, whereas the liquidity crisis, the payment which is not coming from the market, is impacting the cash flow, and it becomes difficult on day-to-day basis to meet day-to-day expenses, the monthly expenses and all the operational expenses. So the liquidity crisis affecting, and the raw material purchase and working capital, so everything is getting impacted by the liquidity crisis which is created in the market. The entire circulation is becoming slow of the money, and it is impacting a lot of related industries and businesses also. One point is we can look at it like this, that when there is market expansion, we have a good growth. So when there is market shrinkage, so a particular product category or a product segment where people would not want to spend immediate money or their disposable income when it comes to the consumer goods or consumer services. When it comes to industrial products also, these are also linked, so they will get a slower impact on that. But a particular segment or particular product category where the consumption is low, becoming low due to high inflation, people are not spending money, even businesses are not spending money on those kind of investments. So that particular market will start shrinking. So overall market size will come down, and that will put pressure on the number of players who are playing in that particular market. So everybody will start jostling for their share when the market starts shrinking. A very relevant example will be the pandemic related products, which we have seen that there was a surge, and there are n number of players mushroomed started manufacturing those products and all. But when the impact was gone, and India was very has been resilient to the third wave of COVID, and so this time we have not seen that kind of surge into the rise of the products which are protecting the COVID and so on and so forth. So we can say that the protective products for a pandemic, their market has shrunk compared to what was the market size 3 years, 4 years back. So number of players who have still remained present in that segment must be feeling the pinch now. How do we immediately react when we realize that, even if we read in newspapers that the recession is coming or around the corner, and how the companies are affected? So first thing that we do is we gather the stakeholders, and we discuss the revenue impact, as the turnover is the direct indicator of how good or bad the company is doing. So we discuss the revenue, do the revenue impact assessment with major stakeholders in the organization. Another thing is immediately comes under the microscope is the expenses. So the operational expenses, day-to-day expenses, travels, overheads, all the expenses are getting scrutinized, and how to go about the expenses. So large corporates are very fast on taking due diligence on this, and they immediately issue the advisories on how in the coming months the team and the manpower has to work on controlling the expenses and so on and so forth. Procurement is another part, which has to be brainstormed with the stakeholders, and key decisions have to be taken on how the working capital has to be rotated in the coming month with the slow payment cycle, and how much inventory to be maintained, and what should be the procurement cycle, and that leads to further actions which we will discuss in the next slides, that how do we deal with our suppliers and vendors and those people. Linked with procurement is the inventory. Those businesses who are product driven, product manufacturing companies or trading organizations, or retail and distribution kind of organizations. So immediately, and inventory is something which not only gets impacted at the time of recession, but it gets amplified. So if organization has a habit of operating with a very high inventory levels in terms of number of days of inventory, then the impact gets amplified when the market goes down. So, so it has to be brainstormed immediately with the stakeholders on what calls do we take on the inventory and existing inventory, long-term piling inventory, and it's a very big subject. MSME owners generally are very, very vigilant, and what their competitors are doing is comes very easy to them, and not only in recession but otherwise also. So tracking the competition. So immediately, our natural reaction, what my competitor is doing, whether he is growing or whether he is not growing or he is expanding, or so immediate competitors, your rivals, you tend to check their behavior in the market, get the MIS and intelligence and all, and start looking at what activities or what action they are doing in the current market scenario. Profitability, everybody, all of us are doing business for maximizing the value for the stakeholders and profits. So profitability, when it starts hurting, it has to be looked at very stringently. So can we have a poll to look at what our audience thinks about the impacts of recession and the other impacts for through the poll?
Yeah, Prasanna, can we launch the poll, please? Yeah, by the time people are participating in the poll, Jay, what we are going through is very, very interesting right now. GST collection is all-time high. Automobile companies are showing very robust growth, and there is a long waiting time when you want to order a good vehicle, four-wheeler especially. We are also seeing that home buying is also now picking up. Banks are showing extraordinary profits. I saw HDFC Bank's result last week, and I mean the growth is very, very robust. And of course, these headlines are talking about recession, and really it's a very interesting time. We don't know whether recession is there or not, or it is really not seen and it is coming. So it is very interesting time, and it is very important for every business to analyze the impact of this so-called recession on their own own specific business, because every business will have very interesting information on what is the magnitude of that impact, and actually it is impacting them or not. So yeah, I think, are we done with the poll, Prasanna? Are you sharing it? Sharing the results? Yeah. So what we are seeing is 59%, 59% of the attendees are saying that stagnant or declining turnover is the sign they are witnessing in their business. Liquidity and working capital difficulties is 65%. Supply is more than demand is 35%, means very fierce competition. And negative growth of the market size is 41%. So I think we don't know whether we believe all these numbers, of GST, of a luxury car bookings, or maybe real estate. or we actually listen to this wonderful composition of audience, who are businessmen themselves, and they are indicating that, some people are seeing turnover going down, some people are but yes, if GST is increasing, that means overall turnover is increasing, right? Because GST is very good indicator of the overall turnover. So if a specific business's turnover is going down and overall turnover is going up, somewhere there is a scope of correction and scope of solving the problem, right? Then liquidity and working capital difficulties, like banks are making extraordinary profits, and banks are the people who is the source of liquidity to the people. So yes, working capital difficulties and liquidity, again, it's a very, very mysterious experience every business is having right now. Supply is more than demand. That means fierce competition is there. So whether we are into right product market fit or not, I think that is a classic solution we can offer. And negative growth of market size. Certain markets are shrinking, but overall, economy is expanding. We are still hopeful that Indian GDP will increase, will grow at 7%. So I think we are heading towards a very, very interesting session. Over to you, Jay. Next slide.
Yeah. As you rightly said, Mr. Vishal, the Indian economy has become of such a size that our growth, our all the parameters have become sectoral specific. So a few sectors doing well keep driving the economy in the good direction, as well as the GST numbers, as you rightly pointed out, month on month, there is an increase in the GST numbers. So we have to look at it, as it said, that think globally and act locally. So that very much applies to India and every businessman here. So let us look at the handy strategies to deal with the recession. So either let us start this slide with expense controls. So because if I'm also a businessman, and when I start reading about recession and its impacts, and I think that if the giants of the world are getting impacted like this, that they have to retrench, then who am I? And should I must act upon it very strongly. But my market may give me different indicators. I may be doing well, or the product category or the service category in which I am present might be there might be a bigger need for that. So I have to analyze in depth. But I can start with at least hitting upon the expense control, that there is no harm in starting to control my expenses softly. And if this trend continues, then I will go harder with that in the coming months. So monitoring of expenses is something that every businessman is doing, but it has to be a part of the culture of the company, I would say, rather than, it has to be only the focus of the business owner or the accounts or only the finance stakeholders and so on. So one has to build a culture, or one can build a organizational culture, so that every employee, whether irrespective of recession, or whether there is recession or whether there is good growth, everybody is, at the back of the mind, they know that I have to be reasonable incurring my expenses. And monitoring my expenses. Then tighter budgets. So the approvals which go very fast when we are galloping and doing good becomes restrictive in nature, and we start filtering on based on the needs and the urgency of the fund which are being asked from us. So budget, overall budget, and in which period of the year and how much of the financial year is still to go by. So these are the factors we consider, and then we start putting tighter controls on the budgetary spendings. As a thumb rule, we should aim and achieve 10 to 15% cut by optimization and minimizing the inefficiencies. So we can say this is a very, very important point, which now touches upon. And if you read these days, even the giants of the IT companies in India are also talking about this point of productivity in the business. So we can say that efficiency, cost of inefficiency is never calculated in terms of rupees or in terms of revenue. It always reflects on long-term impacts, like we discuss about loss of market share, degrowth, rising overheads. So when these kind of symptoms start showing, we try to get into it and start finding the results. But the inefficiency which is building in the organization over the period of time is the root cause, which is yielding, which is taking us to these kind of situations. So it should be the organization and the owner has to be very, very vigilant on building a culture which is more towards the productivity, as well as for the doing the business in an efficient way. And terms and policy reviews. So the policies which are being created once, and they go on for a long time, and generally in an MSME, once the policy is created, number of years are worked on those policies only. But at the end of every financial year, one must have a review of all the policies, whether they are HR policies or finance policies, or terms of trade policies. So every should get reviewed, and we have to keep changing our ways as per the changing market scenario. Then we have to identify and curb the non-essential expenses. So it is very interesting to see that sometimes an investment is seen as expense, and sometimes an expense is seen as the investment. For example, if you are trying to upgrade, if somebody suggests us that upgrade in a technology and build your business from here with the assistance of technology, and then we may start looking at what is the kind of investment this will be required and what my balance sheet says, and we think that this is not the investment, but this is the expenses, and I don't want to incur this year, but I'll do it in the future. And we keep running our business in a manual way, or a particular function in a manual way. So this is what we are very prone to do. Some of it are the software upgrades like ERPs and CRMs if you are using, and then if it requires upgradation, or little investment is required in fetching out very handy reports. One point very important you mentioned, Mr. Vishal, is the data points. So what kind of data points my software is throwing at me? So little bit of investment into the reporting, and little bit of investment in making it smarter will help us go a long way, and it can help us take very big business decisions based on those data points. So any software that we are using for our business, so upgradation is what we have to look. If we have to look at, then we look it as an investment and not as an expense. Hardware upgradation. So IT companies and those big organizations where more number of employees are there, so a lot of hardware is incurred there in their business. So hardware upgrade is one thing which we have to think that if we can continue with the current hardware for some time, then that can be avoided. Big product launches. So nowadays, digital media is and social media and digital platforms are a very easy way, cost-effective way to launch your products, communicate to a very large audience compared to the physical events. So there are a lot of technologies are available, a lot of event companies are available who help you to do these kind of launches in a smarter way and with a lower cost. So that kind of options have to be looked at, rather than incurring expenses into the bigger product launches. A new addition of vehicles. There are we deal with some clients who are in the construction industry and textile and a lot of other industries which are there, which require a lot of vehicle which are given to the employees, plus in the business a lot of machineries and vehicles which are being used. So addition to that particular fleet has to be looked at, or compared to purchasing their own machineries. Renting is another option nowadays, which can be very, very cost effective for the time of recession. Capex on equipment, as I just mentioned, that capex on equipment. So nowadays, it is very easy to rent the machineries, rent the vehicles, and a lot of services are built around that. So that is very easy option to look at the time of recession. Now, when it comes to employee benefits and reduction in employee benefits, so a lot of organization, want to give a best experience to their employees, especially the service industry, especially the IT industry, and so on and so forth. They are incurring extra money, extra expenditure to for the health of their employees, for the health or mental health of their employees, for the working environment and culture, and so on and so forth. So those can be looked at the time of recession, but not at the payroll. So what we are saying here is that how much we are spending on the gratification of the employee feelings versus how much we are spending on the basic requirements for the employee. So the basic requirements should be maintained, and the extra or gratification part can be controlled for a time being. On the other hand, the benefits which are being given to employees like medicals and insurance, they can continue. This is third most important aspect, that not only in recession, that if you want to go recession proof, then please build your organization based on ROI based activities, ROI based return on investment based investments. For example, all the marketing activities. So when you have a sales team, it will be a continuous demand from the sales team that we need to do certain marketing activities or advertisements or awareness programs or below the line activities, so on and so forth. So it should be a culture of the organization that anything that is being proposed, along with that, the proposer also brings in the return on investment aspect, that if we spend so much on this particular activity or this particular advertisement, this is the likely revenue, or this is the likely accumulation of customers is going to result. And so that every expense or investment can be calculated, yield some result to the organization. So we have to build a culture like that. For example, as I said, product launches, then the travel necessities. So nowadays, what we are doing right now, through webinars and Zoom meetings and virtual meetings or Microsoft Team meets and all, these are the very good, or Zoom are very good tools to connect not only with your team, but also with your customers. So if you want to have a couple of hours of discussion, why travel and incurs expense and waste time for both the parties? So these are the handy tools. So rather than that, business owner can invest in this kind of subscriptions and work for the time of where the recession is likely to hit. KRA and KPI based bonus and incentives. This is one important, and we can do one entire session on this particular point. The organization which works on the key performance indicators for each and every function and employee, organization which rewards its employees based on the KPIs and key result areas and the scores. These are the organizations which will be recession proof in the coming years. So again, I would say that when we are doing good, let us build an organization which works on perform and take home the benefits kind of a culture, rather than the fixed salary culture compared to the old times. I would now like to see the response from the audience on this. Please quickly run a poll on this.
Yeah, so by the time our attendees respond to this poll, yeah, this is very interesting, and these are very handy strategies, and I think we are seeing these implemented so well. I would say expense controls. This is being implemented so well to deal with the recessionary pressures the startup industry is facing. Most of the startups are now not getting that fancy valuation. Most of their investors are so demanding. And when they got funded with fancy evaluation, they got millions in their bank account, and probably they did not plan their expenses very well. And now in recessionary pressures, they are not able to realize the best out of whatever they've invested. So I think expense control is one, which is very much evident right now as a handy strategy for startups. Similarly, curb non-essential expenses and focus on your core competencies is also interesting. And ROI linked activities, yes, if we can build this kind of approach, we can actually build a recession proof organization. So let us see the poll results now. Yeah, so 84% of the people find these three handy strategies, effective or doable. I mean, that is very, very good sign. 26% of them think that optimization of operational efficiencies can help them deal with recession. 21% control on non-essential expense can help them deal with recession, and 11% ROI linked activity can help. I would say, if we understand ROI linked activities more, probably this percentage would have increased. And of course, 84% believe that all of above are good handy strategies. See, sometimes recession could be very, very elusive. I will give you the example of Synersoft. We are a small software development company. After COVID, we faced tremendous pressure on our hirings. There was so good appreciation in the talented IT person's compensation that we could not keep up with that. There was a euphoria of hiring by Amazon, by Google, by Facebook, by many large companies. And they were offering fancy compensation to most of the talented IT professionals. And Synersoft being a small company, and we are very cautious about our overheads, and we don't hire just on the fly. We always have ROI linked activities. So wherever and whenever we hire people, we hire them not to fire and with a very long-term perspective. So we really could not keep up with the compensation standards offered by these large companies. Now, so at that time, everybody was under the impression that IT industry is doing great. IT industry is going through a boom. We were not at that time. Now we see that these people are firing people like anything. Recently 65,000 people were fired in US. So suddenly, a recession is so illusionary. For them it is a recession. For Synersoft it is not. Now that talent is available to us at a very rational and reasonable compensation, which we can keep up and we can afford, and we can actually make ourselves more profitable, and we can make ourselves more development oriented and progressive. So sometimes recession is very, very illusionary. Yeah, so let's look at more handy strategies to deal with recession. Over to you, Jay.
Yes, Mr. Vishal, it's a very good line that you said, that recession can be very elusive. So let us look at another important aspects of our operation and how we can deal with them. Inventory management. So inventory management, inventory control or inventory review, I would say, has to be a continuous process in anybody's organization who are product-based organizations or manufacturers. Or so for manufacturers, if you are not stocking the finished goods, you may be stocking raw materials. And how you have tied up with your vendors and suppliers, and what are the supply terms and what are the terms of trade. So everything comes in picture. Those who are traders may be stocking, or those who are distributors may be pushing the stock down the line to the retailers and so on and so forth. But the kind of inventory. So if you don't have inventory in your warehouse, but if you have inventory in the warehouse of your stakeholder, that is also going to hurt you one day. So how this entire rotation has to take place? One important aspect is continuously it should be monitored what is the aging inventory, and depending on your working capital cycle or cash flow cycle, one must decide the aging criteria for the inventory. So if your general norms for your market for payment cycle is 60 days, then you cannot have inventory in your warehouse for more than 30 days, which I'm talking about the paid up stock. So if 30 days plus 60 days, so that is a 90 days is the kind of investment that you will have in your business. Practically, you are going to have not more than 4 rotations a year. So, but disposal of old or aging inventory has to be a continuous process. If you look at modern retails right now, retail giants, it is part of their process that anything which is more than 15 days or more than 30 days, they will immediately have an offer for the customer and they will liquidate. Then standardization of products is one thing that if you see recession is coming, and we have a lot of businesses have a tendencies to build customized products or customized services for their customers. So anything that comes, as a suggestion from that customer, so they are customer centric and they want to delight that customers, and nothing wrong about it. But standardization of products is something where very classic example I would say that if you are aware about the association between Maruti and Toyota. So some of the Toyota models are being manufactured by Maruti. It is a classic example of collaboration as well as standardization. So what kind of standardization both the companies must have thought when they launched the Baleno as well as the Glanza. These are the two very similar models manufactured by one company and marketed by two different companies. So, and if you see the products of Skoda versus Volkswagen, very similar products they offer, their platforms are same. So automobile industry is a classic example of how you can, have a standardization as the cost benefit to your organization. So standardization of products, or maybe you can not have 100% standardization for a small business, at least 50-60% components or 50-60% chassis or 50-60% structure can be standardized, and another part can be customized. So mix of standardization versus customization is the key to reduce or keep the inventory under control. Very, very important aspect is what your sales team is projecting you, because when it comes to inventory, when it comes to stock, the sales team demands or the sales team pulls the inventory out of you. So say that no, ye bhi chahiye, wo bhi chahiye, yahan pe demand hai. So anybody throwing an inquiry to the sales team will come to you as a demand on the amplification of 1:10. अगर डिमांड 1 है तो 10 होके आएगी आपके पास कि नहीं सर बहुत डिमांड है, शॉर्टेज है, माल नहीं बिक रहा और हमारे ऑर्डर लॉस हो रहे हैं. So there can be a culture of sales team giving a forecast in a couple of months advance depending on your raw material procuring cycle. If you are importing from China, at least 3 months forecast has to be given by the sales team, and based on that forecast a company can manufacture the goods and supply in the market. There has to be 10-15% buffer has to be kept by the organization, but this culture can be cultivated in the organization, and then the variance of the sales plan given by the team versus what is supplied by the factory, this can be matched, as well as at the final stakeholder, the salesperson, sales team or sales organization has to be made responsible for delivering the sales forecast which they have given. So a very important point to note down for all of us, and somebody can take a cue and build on that. Then efficient working capital management. So rotation of finances, where to deploy, and every penny that I spend, I must get a return for that. That kind of culture has to be built for efficient working capital management. And just-in-time inventory practice is known to everybody. And this actually is not, cannot be only adopted in our organization. It is a link. So as our buyers, as well as our suppliers, both the entire chain has to be part of this just-in-time inventory practice. And it is not necessary that we are 100% Six Sigma just-in-time organization. We can start with at least 20-30%, and then we can go with the future. Terms of trade negotiations with the suppliers, and everybody must be doing this, but then time to time or maybe twice in a year, there should be a process with the purchase team or the procurement team that they do negotiations or they do meetings and reviews with the suppliers, how the components and products which are supplied by your suppliers, how they are faring, and what are the rotations and which products are doing well, which products are not doing well. This kind of feedback can be given to them so that they also can plan their inventory, as well as the payment terms and trade. This also is a two-way process, that if we are a good paymaster, we can expect good discounts as well as promptness in supplies from our vendors. Capex to OPEX, as we already discussed, then so it has a very thin line when I think that this is my capital expenditure and I must avoid, whereas that particular investment can help us to build the efficiency in the organization in future. and it will become actually your operational expense, and it is not a capital expenditure. So this kind of approach has to be built to see, and the brainstorming with the stakeholders to objectively analyze a particular investment, even if it is a recession. Then if for the productivity of the organization and for the building the efficiency, one can definitely invest into the technologies or the machineries or softwares which are going to give you the productive results in the future. One point here is outsourcing and job work. So nowadays, a lot of options are available for outsourcing and job work, especially after the COVID situation, after the China situation. Indian manufacturing industry has started doing better. A lot of people have investment into making their manufacturing setup a little bit more sophisticated after this. Again, this is sector specific, but now there are a lot of options to get the job work done from a particular company rather than investing and doing a capital expenditure. So, the break-even point or the payback period, if it is long, it makes a lot of sense to get the job work done outside and use that capex which you have in your hand in the other way in your organizations. Collaboration, as I just mentioned, fantastic examples are available across the world in our own market, how people are collaborating with each other, how competitors are collaborating with each other and building their business, robust business for future. So collaboration is one point we must note and explore in our business, is that can I collaborate with anybody and grow my business from there. So can we, do we have a poll after this slide? Can we quickly have a poll? Yes.
So by the time you are responding to this last poll of this session, let me, talk about outsourcing and job work. See, in Ahmedabad, in last 2 years, something happened very severe to the textile industry. Ahmedabad is a hub of processing industry, textile processing industry. And because of certain pollution problems, delay in effluent treatment plant construction, the High Court had ordered the closure of so many factories, and there were hundreds of factories closed and thousands of people got unemployed. And it was a tough time for those who were doing business because they already had overheads, they already had to pay the rent, their bank loans were on for their equipment, they had to pay their installments, but there was zero revenue because they were not allowed to do business. Normally, Ahmedabad and certain other parts in Rajasthan or Maharashtra, they compete with each other on textile processing. And here what happened, most of these Ahmedabad factories collaborated with some factories in Bhiwandi, some factories in Rajasthan, Pali. And actually, they did not lose the market. Whatever customers they had, they just kept a very small margin, outsourced their processing because they were not allowed to do processing in their own factory and delivered. So yes, outsourcing and job work can really help in such unforeseen situation. Let us look at the poll feedback. Which of the following action points do you think can help you wade through recession? Then 63% of the people say all of the above. And what is that all about? All of the above is optimization in inventory management, negotiation with suppliers of price, which is 26%, switch from capex to opex, yes, 11%. Switch from capex to opex is very much available nowadays. Everything is available on lease and people can really look at it. Of course, if their finances are not permitting, but they should not block their capital, in incorrect way. Like sometimes people borrow for short term and invest for long term, and then they struggle while there is a payment call. And sometimes people borrow for long term and invest for short term and then keep that capital idle without no use. So you have to really match your investment horizon along with the term of your borrowing. Yeah, so this is the poll result. It is very, it is giving us very deep insights to what is happening in the industry. Yeah, so let's move to the last part, which is data points. Jai, over to you.
So recession times and otherwise also, productivity of sales team is one of the key points which every organization must inculcate in today's time. So when we have a sales team, whether small or big, how much they are producing per day, how much calls they are making per day, or how many customers they are catering to, has to be closely monitored through a weekly review, and they must be told time to time whether their productivity is online. So companies can set parameters of sales team productivity through KPIs, and all their rewards and incentives can be linked only with the productivity rather than linking them with their sales targets or their turnover. Expansion of customer base. So this is linked with the first point that generally team tends to do business with the same set of customers, and there is nothing wrong. There is a loyalty on both the sides, customer side as well as company side, and that relationship has to be strengthened and cemented properly for the robust future growth. There is no doubt about it. But company must look at expanding their customer base. Now, see, after GST, the entire India has become a market and sourcing point for a lot of people. So even though you are not looking to expand your customer base, your customers are looking beyond your geography or beyond your territory, and they are continuously searching that can they get the same quality or same product at a reasonable rate or at a better terms of trade policies, and so on and so forth. So one must keep expanding, because in future or in recession time, when you need the turnover, then that is not the time where you will start uh, prospecting the customers. So acquisition of customers, depending on industry to industry, it is a slightly long-term process, and so company must have a culture of continuous expansion of customer base. Faster lead conversion. This point we have not touched so far, but a very important point when it comes to the sales team productivity also. Those companies who are into B2B business or industrial segments, so there, it's a very common term from the sales team that there are no inquiries. So even if you are registered with India Marts or a lot of other platforms, the inquiries flow in, but nobody is looking at what has happened to the inquiries which came in the last month. Has each and every inquiry been confirmed, or what is the follow-up was done by the customer? What kind of experience was given to the prospect? What kind of insights for the organization has been given to the prospects? How they have been nurtured? So this is entire lead management process which every organization must adopt, and this can give you fantastic results as far as sales team productivities are concerned. Channel development. So as an organization, you must be very tech savvy, and if you are a manufacturer, then you must have invested and build a culture which is very, very future looking or very, very progressive. But at the same time, as you grow, you must look at how your channel is doing, or how tech savvy or how progressive in their working the channel is. Because if the channel is working in the old fashioned ways, and you are as a manufacturer are working in the new ways, then that match cannot work for a long term. At some time, you must take decisions on channel modification or changing the channel, changing your distributors and dealers, because the new parties can give you that kind of data points or that kind of products inside market insights, and work exactly the way you are wanting to work. So channel development and upgradation of your key channel partners on whom you have a good stake for the business. So a company must invest into the training. Sales team must invest into the time and energy in training their sales people. If you are having a channel kind of a business, even if you are having a direct customer kind of business, because you are manufacturer of a product, or if you are a creator of a service, then you are already at one level up compared to your customers, and you have to continuously keep doing the knowledge sharing and keep building your channels and your customers. precise target marketing. So as we said that every marketing activity or every activity has to be ROI based. Then one way to do is do precise target marketing. Now in the time of this digital media and social media and Google Analytics, so if you spend 1 rupee, you get umpteen number of analytics from there, that which type of profile, which type of customer in which geography has seen your ads or are showing interest in your product or service or your post. So precise target marketing will not only save your money right now, but it will also give you very fast lead conversion, as well as it will give you insights into what should be your next campaign or what should be your awareness program look like. So the return on investment on those kind of activities, which will be always higher. Optimum use of resources. This is very common knowledge, and then this cannot be imposed at the time of recession, or this cannot be imposed at the time of crisis. It has to be rather a organizational culture. Focus customer service. So this is one point where the entire team has to be trained, whether it is a back-end team or a front-end team or a sales team or a support team. Everybody has to be trained with a mindset that every action that they do should be done by keeping the end customer in the mind. So if somebody is a manufacturer of a product which is getting sold through a channel and it is getting used by some end consumer or an industry, then every action has to be done, or every activity has to be planned, every policy has to be made by thinking that what will be the impact on the end customer, how the end customer is going to perceive our organization and build a relation with us, and whether they are going to be loyal to us. So focus on the customer service is very, very important. And this is the last, but this is the biggest point. Companies who have a very robust review mechanism, they sail through recessions like a cakewalk, and they come out as a winner. Because a regular review mechanism on sales, regular review mechanism of your working capital, regular review mechanism of your inventories, regular review mechanism of your processes, regular review of your customer services, whether your customer service was good in the month of December, but how good it is in the month of January. People tend to bask in the past glories. So if we did something good in the month of October, rest of the next 12 months, our team will keep thinking about the massacre. But currently, your customers may not be getting that kind of service from your organization. So stringent review mechanism, and these review mechanisms can be done by these KRAs and KPIs that has been developed by each and every employee. So whatever are the focus points for your organization, they become the focus points for the growth of your employees. And through regular review mechanism, you can align them to and build an organization which can be recession proof and keep growing irrespective of the market condition.
Yeah, so if I look at this slide, it is just perfect compilation of the data points. And if I look back to my entrepreneurial journey, I would say all these data points have helped me a lot. Just to give you an example, a living case study, I started my entrepreneurial journey in 99. In those days, Indian stock markets were so manual. In those days, people were not knowing about futures options. And in those days, National Stock Exchange, NSE, started derivatives market for futures and options. Nobody knew about it. Even I did not know much about it. But yeah, I had a lot of theoretical knowledge because of my background as a financial analyst after my engineering. So I actually ventured and I started my own startup to build a risk management system, because I visualized that as soon as the market is going through completely second and third dimension, earlier it was just equity. Now second dimension was future and third dimension was options. The risk profile of the customers would increase drastically, and most of the stockbrokers won't be able to manage it, and it will require technology to do it. So we started our risk management system. We started that company, and it did wonderful because we were so early entrant, and we could really keep our foot very well confirmed in this particular market, in that emerging market. in 2006-7, I thought that I'm dependent on single sector of economy, and what if this stock market crash? And of course, from 2001 to 2006, it was an amazing boom run for a stock market. I started thinking about what if I'm depending on one single sector, and what if something happens to that sector? So actually, I had a good acquirer of my old company. I decided to exit that company, and I started Sinnersoft in 2008 with my other co-founders. And there we made sure that expansion of customer base must be there. So we actually decided to build a product on a gap left by IT industry. So we made sure that our product should be targeted to a very large segment. Indian SMEs exist in millions, and it's a very large segment. And it should not be segment oriented. It should not be sector oriented. So our product Black Box, it is useful to a chartered accountant, to a manufacturer, to an architect. So actually, individual sectors might go through their own recession cycle, but those who are vertical agnostic products, they lose on some sector but make up on another sector, which is doing well. So this expansion of customer base, I have seen that, if you are working in a business or you are operating in a sector which is not agnostic to specific industry, you have better diversification in your customer base, and that really helps. So I think this is a wonderful session, Jay. And one more thing, I think we are going to have a sequel for this session. What we believe is that when we want to wade through recession, or we want to get maximum out of our resources, I think team management is not enough. It has to be smarter, So team management may not be enough, but smart team management may be enough. Smart resource management is enough. So we have actually developed another session which we are going to take in February, which will be in a sequel that, okay, we may have recession, or we may have a strategy building exercise to be immune from recession. And then, of course, it looks very good on the drawing board. It looks very good on the paper, but how we actually realize it, where smart team management skills or smart team management strategies would play a very important role. And I think that is what we are going to, conduct in next session in February, for which we will announce the dates also. And next week, we are also launching Magic Browser software technology on next Tuesday. So you will be intimated. Those who are interested in knowing about that Magic Browser, you can always attend that session also. Yeah, over to you, Jay, for some closing remark. And before that, I would like to sincerely thank you for making this session so interesting. I was seeing at the audience number, and what we started, it has only increased. It has not gone down. So most of the people have, been here all the session, and that is because you have made it so interesting. Thank you so much. Jay, any closing remarks from your side?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vishal. And first of all, I want to thank all the participants and attendees to show this interest in this webinar. I would say that nowadays, the strategies to run the business and everything and all those knowledge is not restricted to B schools and all. It is available everywhere through common reading or on the Google or YouTube, so many things. Success comes to those organizations which can implement these concepts. Success comes to those organizations which can believe in execution. And I would say that a strong review mechanism, as we said, just one point from tomorrow morning, if you adopt in your organization, take one data point and start reviewing every week. Within 3 to 4 months, you can see amazing results. I have certain case studies also just to show how review mechanism works, but that maybe we will discuss in the next webinar. But this one thing, so please, it is my suggestion to all the attendees that execution and review mechanism, please look at it very, very seriously at any function of your organization. And I wish you all very happy winter and a great time ahead, and a very successful time. And I wish that all of you become recession-proof business owners, and your organization keep going. So thank you all. From
So
my
Jai,
side.
we overshot the session by 5 minutes, but we can allow 5 more minutes in case somebody has a question. You can just
Yes.
raise your hand and we'll unmute you so you can ask your question. In case you have any questions specific for Jai, you can please write to Prasanna. She will convey and organize his accessibility also. Jai has helped so many businesses in his management consultancy tenure. He has very vast experience managing large teams, small teams, and mentoring the entrepreneurs also. So yeah, we can have 5 more minutes. We can check if anybody has a question, we can answer. Yeah, you can raise your hand, we'll unmute you. Prasanna has already shared her email ID. So these kind of sessions are being sponsored by Sinners of Technologies. United SME is our brainchild, and we are very bullish about it. We want SMEs to help, with nothing in expectations of return. But yes. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Shah, Suresh Shah, for your compliments. Yeah, any questions? We have 3 more minutes. We can take the questions. You can raise your hand and ask the question. Yeah, so I think, Prasanna, we can close the session if nobody has a question. Prasanna?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jay, sir. Thank you, Vishal, sir, for such
Thank
an
you.
interesting, insightful, and interactive session, actually. On behalf of whole United SMEs team, I thank everyone for attending the session. I hope you have enjoyed and learned from this presentation. Please fill the survey form, which you will get at the end of the session to give us your valuable feedback. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Suresh Shah. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Vishal.
Thank you, Mr. Pandse, for your feedback. Thank you.